Welcome to another little episode of Art Exploration. This is our new Facebook group, and I'm doing this with Jessica Sanders and Lisa Hetrick. And our group is growing, so come on over, join us over there. We do a color challenge every month, and for the month of April, the color is going to be white. That's a challenge. Hi, I'm Kellie Chasse. I have full online classes and tutorials every month on my website at www.kellychassefineart.com. So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, this is the place to be if you are an artist, a crafter, or just want to have fun. So this week, Prim and I are hanging out together. As you can see, she's such a cutie. The great thing about what I do with art exploration is I like to have fun. I like to explore. So this week we're going to explore using white with alcohol inks. And I'm doing this one on a mineral paper today. You can see how nice and thin this is. It's a vellum surface. And guess what it's made out of? Mineral paper is actually made out of minerals. It's made out of rocks. So it's a really nice option for those of you that don't want to use Yupo paper or you're trying to stay away from a little bit more of the plastics. And it's actually less expensive than Yupo paper. The size of this one is a 9 by 12 and it sells here on Amazon in the US for around $9. And it's made by Yasumoto. I don't know if I say that right. Made from rocks, not trees, water-based or dry media, bright white vellum surfaces, and it's acid-free. And it's 20 sheets in here, and it's a 100-pound paper. And so I'm also excited. I was sent these lovely brand new alcohol inks by a new company called T-Rex, and it was started by an artist. Her name is Tiffany, and her husband Steven. I guess she's the T, he's the Rex, and they are from I think it was Washington or Washington State. She was also, I guess she used a lot of the alcohol inks, but they ran out so quick. So that was one of the things that she was looking for as well. She wanted something that was more jumbo size. So these are actually 33% more ink per bottle. So they're a little bit larger. They have an anti-clogging tip and it's leak resistant. It works a little bit better than another brand that I have used where the tips are harder to screw on. This one is pretty good. And they're fast drying. They're really vibrant. The colors are very saturated and they're really pretty. So I'm excited to use these for the first time. I'm just starting with these, so I'm going to be probably doing a few more things. But for today's experiment, we're going to just lay a few of the colors down and we're going to experiment with lots of ways to create white while you're using alcohol inks. Now, the T-Rex, I guess they can be used for painting, for stamping, for fabric dyeing, resin tinting, jewelry making, and just like all of the other ones. And I can't remember how much they cost, but they do sell them on Amazon. So I'll give you guys the link down below for these as well. So I'm just laying in a few colors. You can see how pretty this pink is. Oh my goodness. This is called Dragon Fruit Pink. So I have some 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to see how these work with lightening it. I tried a little bit of the clear blender that comes with their little 12-piece starter kit, and that lightened it nicely, but I just want to see how much I can blend this. Now you can see the mineral paper, again, depends on what surfaces you guys are using. If you're trying glossy cardstock, or if you're trying Yupo paper, if you're trying tile, all of those different types of paper may have different reactions to this, but you can see how beautifully light that gets. It does definitely stain it as I am moving this around in a circular motion. Now remember, this is more of a vellum surface, it's very soft, and you can see how that does get a nice little bits of purple around the edges. So I'm going to use some of the sunshine yellow. Let's put some of that in there. And again, I'm just going to take this and use it to blend some of that out. It's a really pretty yellow. Look how vibrant that is. Lovely shades. Almost looks like clouds here. Actually, Jessica, if you're watching this, Jessica Sanders, she actually has a Skillshare class with clouds, and this is what it reminds me of. I just watched your Skillshare class, Jessica. It was really good. If you guys haven't seen that one, I'll leave you a link for Jessica's cloud class down here. It was really good. And then I'm going to do some of the blue. I think this one was Glacier Blue. Let's just use my fingers this time. And I do want you guys to know that these pair of gloves, I've been using these this entire time. I just keep cleaning my hands with a little bit of cleanup solution or alcohol, and I are reusing these gloves because we know that that is one of the things that many places are out of that. So I'm using my last few pairs here over and over again. So I'm just going to blend that in. You can see how it just moves. It dries really quick. Get a nice purple mixing those two together here. So now we have some color down. I just wanted to get some color so we can see how these will work on top. Now these colors are very pastel-y, which are really pretty, and I think the white's going to show up on this. Now remember, the darker it is, obviously those white pens are going to show up even better. So we're going to try the gel pen first, and if you've worked with alcohol inks before, this is probably one of your mainstays or staples when you're working with alcohol inks. So you can see it does show up. Now I didn't let this dry like overnight or 24 hours. I'm just going right directly into it. And it's working pretty good. And it's actually not picking up much of the color underneath, which some of the really concentrated alcohol inks, depending again on what brand you're using, some of them will tint the gel pen more so than others. So this is staying pretty white. And I'm looking at it now after I've done this, and I'm going back and doing the edit. So I did this morning, and it's still holding its color pretty good. I don't see much color coming up through. So that's a good sign. So now let's try the Posca pen. This is the paint pen. I'm going to shake this one up really well. And let's see how this one works compared to the gel pen. Now the Posca pens come in a lot of different sizes. They have different size nibs. I've talked about that before. And again, I'll leave you guys the links down below for all of this stuff if you're brand new to it and you're not sure where to get it. I have them all listed on my Amazon shop for you. They are affiliates, so just know that anytime you purchase anything using my links, thank you so much, because I do get a small percentage. It just helps me put it back into making videos for you guys, so that's wonderful. So this is the Posca pen. You can see that, again, it's very similar to the gel pen. It's a little bit thicker nib. And again, that held its own very well, and the color stayed pretty good. I think if I were to say that any of them tinted more than one of the others, I would say that the pink actually took on a little bit more of the color from the pink than it did the blue or the yellow. So again, depending on your colors, that might be different. It might be different again. I'll say it again on the Yupo paper or tiles versus doing this on the mineral paper. So now I have just a little cotton Q-tip, and I've dipped it in some isopropyl alcohol, and I just want to lift this and see what we can bring this, how much we can bring this back to white paper underneath. And you can do it. Again, it's still stained somewhat, but it does lighten it. It doesn't make it completely white, but you definitely can lift it and get back to a lighter shade, a much lighter shade than what you have, even with blending this out with alcohol or with blending solution. When I first put it down, that is. So obviously the blue is probably the toughest, a little bit darker. But again, you can get a really nice light shade. Doesn't come back to white, but it's pretty darn close. So now let's go ahead and try some tape. This is, what do they call it? Wasabi tape? Is wasabi the stuff that you eat? It's the hot stuff. That stuff's really good. No, it's green. Wasabi's green, I think. Anyway, the tape. So I'm going to put that down. And again, this is on the mineral paper. So it's that smooth surface. And then we're going to try also some masking fluid with this as well. So I have my brand new glass pen that I just got in, and I'm going to try using this with the masking fluid. Now this has ridges on it, so I'm not quite sure how well it's going to work. I use my calligraphy pen all the time, but the glass pen's a little different. I tried that last week. If you want to check out that video, I'll leave it up here on the right hand side, and you can see how I worked with my alcohol inks using my glass pen, and that was really fun. Well, first, right off the bat, I noticed that it does drip. That masking fluid really it wasn't that heavy, but it just did not seem to hold it quite as well. It just dripped down, and it's thicker than what alcohol inks are. So it works. I had to kind of let the excess come off first. And looks like I have a little bit of residue from my alcohol inks the other day, so it tinted that masking fluid a little bit. So I'm writing the word April in case you can't tell. I'm just putting a couple little dots around here just to see what it's going to do. And I will say, when I went to clean this up, it was not as easy as it was to clean off masking fluid from my metal tipped calligraphy pen. This one was more of a challenge because of those ridges. So I might not use that again with the masking fluid. I had to get my fingernail in there a little bit. And I'm wiping this off like directly after it. I actually washed it in some water. You can see me here trying to get it all off. But so I don't know if I would use that again. I think using the calligraphy pen worked much better with the metal tip. So let this dry. We'll let that masking fluid dry. But let's go ahead and try this on the tape to see how well the tape will keep the alcohol ink away. Again, it might be different if you were to use masking tape, blue painter's tape, frog tape, masking tape. Did I already say that? Electrical tape. There's so many different things that you can use. So I'm going to say go ahead and give it a shot. We're doing our exploration. So if you have some other different tapes and you want to try any of these little projects using different brands or different mediums, things like that, that's what we want to hear. We want you to share your results with us down below. So I'm going to mix that in, added a little bit of that clear blender. So you can see that those lighten nicely. That blending solution is moving things around nicely. I got a little muddied there in my yellow. So let's go ahead. This is all dry now on the masking fluid. Let's do the same thing on the right hand side and see how the masking fluid holds up. And I can tell you right now, the masking fluid is going to do great. I've used this many times, and masking fluid is a nice way to do it. The only thing I would recommend if you're using masking fluid with alcohol inks, make sure your masking fluid is completely dry. Make sure that your alcohol ink is completely dry. Because if you try to remove that when that ink is still a little bit damp, it will smudge, it will smear. So I actually take my heat gun to this because I was curious. I've not used my heat gun with mineral paper before. I've used it with Yupo paper, and if you've used it with Yupo paper, you know that your heat gun can definitely very quickly make your Yupo paper ripple. The heat really does affect it. So I wanted to see what it's going to do here with the mineral paper. So I'm going to dry this really quick. I actually take my tissue paper or my paper towel and I'm just making some little patterns in here and trying to dry it up a little quicker. So the heat gun, it does affect it as well. It doesn't affect it quite as much as what the Yupo paper does, but it did tend to give it a little bit of ripple, but not bad. All right, so that's all dry. Let's go ahead and remove the tape and see what we get. Boo! That did not work as well as I thought it would. Now, I've used this many times with watercolor and it works like a charm. But for mineral paper, this did not work. And it didn't even stick much on the left-hand side. I barely had any, it didn't attach. And I pushed it down really well. So the alcohol, it just seeps underneath there. And let's look at the masking fluid. Obviously, the masking fluid is going to work wonders, and that just peels right off. It's quite colorful, isn't it? It's like a little rainbow. It's very happy. So there's your results on those two. The masking fluid was a go. The tape was not. And again, I'd love to hear if you guys have tried other types of tapes and let me know what really works well for you. All right, so my next experiment was with Derwent Inktense pencils, and I grabbed the white one. I wanted to see if that was going to show up on here. And you can see this makes this really cool design almost, or hatch mark over it. So it lightens it, it definitely changes it, but it does not make it look white. It does this fun little muted color. So now let's go with some gouache. Now I do gouache all the time, and again, this is one of my go-tos. I love using gouache. You can see as I first start out, I have a lot stronger pigment. My brush is slightly wet, but I've got a fairly deep or a fairly large amount of gouache on here, not a lot of water. The more water you put in here with your gouache, the more translucent it is. The less water, the more opaque it's going to be. So gouache works wonderful. Next experiment, let's go ahead and try a glue stick. This is just very random. I thought I had this in my drawer here, so I thought I'd give it a try. Now this glue, actually when it dries, it turns clear, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to put some alcohol ink on top of this and see what it does. I've not done this before. Again, I've tried these type of things with watercolor before, but not with alcohol ink. So let's just tap that around there and see what it's going to do. Now you can see that you can see the word glue because it does create somewhat of a little texture over it. So it does change it a little bit. But then once this is dry, I attempt to see if I can wipe any of that off, and I can't. So, but it does give a really cool texture. This is what you're going to get. It does not come off, but you can see those words underneath. So that was kind of a neat experiment. So there you guys go. There's my art exploration for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, explore, see what your materials are going to do for you. I'd love to hear your results if you try things. And I know all three of us can't wait to see your projects. So please go ahead and post them in our Facebook group. And don't forget to check out Lisa and Jessica's art exploration this week. Right, guys, that's it. Click that like button if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. So thanks so much for joining me. Make sure to click that like and share button, and don't forget to check out Lisa's and Jessica's tutorial this week as well. I'll link it down here below for you as well as on top, and you can also check out their YouTube channels.